Check one, check two. This is it. Welcome to the Cannabis Coffee Hour. With your host, me, Rob Cantrell, coming back again and again. We are we here to win? What are we here to do? We're here to do the Cannabis Coffee Hour. I'm here to drink a little bit of coffee and have a little cannabis and kick it. Talk about, there's so much going on right now with the cannabis world in New York. Like, I just watched this like PBS special, and you know I'm sounding smart when I drop some PBS. So I just drank some PBR and watched some PBS. And no, this special is amazing. But it spoke about the legalization market and the non-legalization market in New York. And I have to say, I'm pro regulated cannabis in New York. If they're doing it the right way. It was saying how much different it is between all these different states. And right now there's 21 states that are legal, including my home state, Washington, D.C. Not Virginia. I did live in Virginia for a minute. But D.C., but California, Colorado, and a bunch of others. But then there's New York City, where I'm broadcasting from and around the world. Yeah, as a guy that's on the street everyday goofball stoner, over the years I've seen the black market, like the bodega, like that was like the classic herb, nickel bag herb. But then I think there was so much money on the table that the underground market really blew up as legalization became more normalized. And then, the powerful hydroponics, and then kind of, the older I get, the more I understand about organic and eating right. And we all are. Everybody's figuring out like the toxic stuff that's out there. I mean, that people didn't even talk about in the 80s and 90s, in terms of like organic foods and GMOs. I didn't know what a GMO was in 1980. But I am drinking some coffee in 2023 and some really good organic coffee. I did get another bag of Stumptown. I have to say, I'm kind of a coffee snob. I'm kind of a herb snob, but in my own sense, But I do like cheap talk. I like all coffee. I like all herb. All herb and all coffee and all pizza are pretty much, they're always pretty good. Excuse me. I hate when people burp on the mic, and I just did a little bit. I have been watching some podcasts and listening to some podcasts, but also trying to write. Not trying to write. I am writing. A lot of writing is just like looking at it over and over again and fucking with it. So I've been doing that. Trying to stick to landing. I have been. This thing that I'm writing on, I think it just needs one more push. That's the only, like, super, when you do the super concentrated, like, oh shit, my back's hurting and I need to drink water, work to it. That's the real work. That's the focus. But yeah, now let's focus on this. I got some bomb-ass coffee from Ethiopia. This is Stumptown. Like, my brother-in-law hooked me up with, like, a subscription to Stumptown, but, like, 4 months. I think this might be the last month, or 5 months, or 6 months. But this is Ethiopian, and this is, I know I'm going to mess up this town, man, pronouncing it. This is their single origin from Ethiopian, and it's Morda coffee. A complex and floral cup sparkling with notes of nectarine, melon, and jasmine. Whoa. Nectarine. Nectarine. That's such a good word, man. Hook me up with some nectarine. Let's see. This relationship. Hala Gebra owns and operates 2 farms and a washing station under the Mara Coffee name. Okay, so this is like the guy that grows the beans. This is their family. This is their farm. Short for Mora Mora River Valley Development Coffee. For decades, Hale's leadership has helped out the Ghana region, I know that, on the map as an origin of the high quality coffee harvest. Morta Coffee represents Hale's own farms as well as the network of neighboring producers to buy from. Let us grow together is one of Morikai's core principles. Oh, I love it. Let us grow together. The cannabis industry, the comedy industry, the coffee industry, that's where I'm trying to grow into. In the music industry too, because I do love me some comedy and music. I want to talk about comedy and music in coffee and cannabis in this podcast. I could feel those are the ones I can talk about for over 45 minutes and maybe an hour if I put some beats on it, or if I'm feeling inspired. But I'm definitely feeling inspired by this coffee and growing together with this podcast. So please like and subscribe, or don't if you're not into that. Go over to the YouTube and subscribe to that, or never listen. I mean, there's just so much stuff out there that to me, I just want to plant it something positive and work on it. Is it the biggest podcast? Is it the best? I don't know. But there's nothing like it out there. The Cannabis Coffee Hour is me. I'm a stand-up comedian. I'll tell you about my trials and tribulations a little bit. But I'll also, I want to interview cats. I had great guests. I got to see the play Harder They Come at the Public Theater. Shout out to the Public Theater and Harder They Come and Jeanette Hazel. Wait a second. I want to make sure. Justine Hazel, who was on our episode. She was amazing, and I got to go see the play Harder They Come. And it blew my fucking mind. It was one of the best. And I actually did also see Hamilton, and I think this one's better. I'm not hating on Hamilton, but if you like reggae music, and if you want to get a little spliff and go out with your chick, or your dude, or your chick, or your friend, or your alien, or your cat, or your stepmom, or your real mom, or your grandfather, and I went to a 2 p.m. show, so I definitely had a little cannabis. I had definitely had a little bit of coffee. I took my chick, and we went and saw Harder They Come, and it was amazing. It was a great experience. Yeah, the music-wise, they had a full reggae band. It's not always on stage, but at key parts, it pops out like in a rolling, like one of those rolling stages, and kicks it. And the stage design is sick. It's like Jamaica, and then all these house speakers, and then the backdrop is like a blue screen, but they're throwing like sunsets, and the actors are all singing all this amazing from the album Harder They Come. Music by Jimmy Cliff, and then there's like a couple new numbers that smack. There's this one dude that played the dealer, like the low-end weed dealer, who was so funny in it, man. And then the main character is amazing. And it's everything that we talked about. Just country boy going into the big city, trying to be a big star. I feel like that sometimes. And that's what the Cannabis Coffee Hour is, we just keep on going. We keep on flowing. And then I had Mike Kaplan on. That was a great one. We did that in the park. I mean, I listened to the sound. Like, I'm a fan of this podcast. I've been listening to him and going back and, subscribe to the YouTube, put up some comments if you like something or you don't like something. Let's get it popping. But at the same time, I'm going to do it at my own pace and at my own style. And I think that's the gig, man, especially when you're doing like podcasts or, content creation. Oh man, that is fucking delicious. Delicious, delicious coffee. Probably one of the best sips of my life right there. I haven't been smoking that hard. So I had a little bit right before this podcast, so I'm out. I've been working on my script writing and stuff, and then, and I've been just busy, and I've been doing some shows. Shout out to Young Ethel's. Shout out to, that's just like one of these venues. Tonight, if you're in the Lower East Side, I'm doing this bar called 1 and 1. I'm just going up and working out material. I am headlining Philadelphia in May at the Punchline Comedy Club. So I'll be doing a full hour. Let me get that date out there. I mean, I'm not trying to be plugmatic, but I also want you to know what I'm doing, especially if you want to come out and see. I would love to see people from the podcast. Sometimes they pop up, sometimes they don't. But the Barn in Egremont, Massachusetts, I'm going to be there April 13th. That's a long, big set. And then the Punchline in Philadelphia on May 18th. Those are like serious tickets, and you got to do it. I'm doing Pete's Candy Store next week. Tonight I'm going to be in the Lower East Side. Pete's Candy Store is in Brooklyn, in Williamsburg. If you're from out of town or if you're in New York, that's a good one to check out. It starts at like 10. And it's definitely smoker friendly in the back or out front. It's New York. Cannabis, like I said, is like... It's not like in the bar, but it's definitely nobody can really say anything to you. Like the cops barely say anything to you. And I have been seeing like how they're applying pressure on the illegal market is they're going to start like fining them like $250,000 if they're illegal. That's what I heard on the street or read. When I say heard on the street, it's mostly I read a newspaper or I saw a website. Or I had a conversation with somebody. It's so they're gonna find those. But I will say, this dude, Back Home Cannabis. That is some of my favorite cannabis. I ran out of it every time I get it. I run out of it. He grows it literally like oranges, like outside, and it's from Housing Works. Shout out to the Housing Works in NYC. That literally is like, and then there's the other brand that is, if you want something a little bit stronger, some of those pre-rolls from that hash company was amazing. I want to make sure that I get them. I want to make sure I get my shout outs correctly. I mumble and jumble. You know what they used to call herb back in like the roaring 30s? They used to call it mumbles or muggles. Because, people go, let's see here. Ramble on. I just want to give these guys a shout out. Like the housing, like they have like 3 or 4 main projects. The last time I went in, Lobo. Anything about the Lobo company is amazing. I want to make sure they get a good shout out too. Because if you like I put that up against anything in California, maybe not the super dabs and all that stuff. I don't know. I don't want to talk too big on this shit. But as a connoisseur, I would say Back Home Cannabis is my favorite. And they only have like 3 or 4 strains. And what the cats are saying, what I heard on this PBS documentary was, that was interesting to me was, because New York doesn't have a big grow cycle. Like California, you can grow cannabis all year long. But in California, it's cold up here. That's when I moved up here in 2005 from California. But originally I'm a DC, Virginia cat. But the one thing I remember was it's significantly like 10 to 15 degrees colder up here. So the cold season lasts a little bit longer, and it's a little bit harder. Especially, don't mess around with Buffalo. I mean, they're practically Canada. Like, it just gets deep snow up there. And then here, you know, it's still fucking cold out there. You still got to wear a winter hat. Make sure you have the right jacket. You definitely don't want to get the sniffles and in this wild environment. I haven't been rocking my masks as much, but I still sneak it on for the grocery store here and there. If there's nobody around, I don't. But on the street, no. Sometimes, you know, comedy clubs, like I said, I have this like nasal spray that's like all vitamin D that supposedly like blocks viruses coming in through your nose. You know, a layer of vitamins. I remember people not believing in vitamins. I do think you need to get it through fruits and vegetables, but I love me some Emergency. Those packets, Emergency, a real stuff. You guys know what I'm talking about. Especially if you do the road or if you're traveling a lot, like I always have like at least like 6 to 10 packs of that shit on me all the time. Like the thing about vitamin C, and my mom taught me this, is like if you're not feeling that good, but the studies say like you can take it every like 2 or 3 hours. Like it's just like a supernatural blast of killing the bullshit. The toxicity of our city. Yeah, cities have a lot of toxicity. I do yearn for nature a lot. This back home cannabis, maybe I'll get a job with them. Maybe I'll just, drive a tractor. And I knew a lot of people in California that worked at grow spots. I did a bunch of gigs in Tahoe, great gigs, man, with the marijuana logs. And I remember there was like when you start getting up into Northern California and you start going up in those Humboldt areas, like that seems to be like one of the side gigs that evolved. But it didn't evolve like in '99 for me. I mean, they were up there. It was still kind of gnarly in backcountry. But as I got older, like around 2010 and 2011, a lot more people I knew worked at like harvest. You would go up and you would harvest, and they say it's really hard work. Actually, the word on the street is like you work and it's so much weed, but you're in there and there's a deadline. Yeah, that's the only thing. Like you go, work is still work, and sometimes if you're around a lot of cannabis and you don't like cannabis, or you like me, I'm just a joint and a half a day or every other week type cat. I don't dab. Right now I'm like almost down to just doing this podcast, and especially after shows and stuff like that, or sometimes working out. I definitely like using it for nature, but it's also a good balance. That's why I want to give a shout out to the best CBD gummies that I've been using to sleep this past week, and I haven't been huffing herb at all, was Not Pot. They're really, it's like these CBD, it's called, but the brand, they taste good. Sometimes I get shit that's like, tastes terrible. This stuff tastes good, and I always end up sleeping. And I'm a guy that never, like if I'm not smoking pot, like it's, I'll definitely go a day and a half without sleeping, or I'll just be laying there and maybe get like a half an hour or an hour and a half. So that's why I always loved herb, is like I can sleep. And I did have some dreams this week, and I had one little nightmare, and I woke up and I was like, wow, that's the best part. I like that part, is when you wake up after a nightmare and you realize it's not true, and you're like, oh. And then you're like, oh shit, I can go back to sleep without thinking about that shit. But then the worst part is if you go back to sleep and then you start thinking about that shit again. But yeah, I had some weird dream that my teeth were falling out, and I just accepted it like it was like they got knocked out or some fillings got knocked out, and I really felt it. It felt real. And then I woke up and I was like, oh, that didn't happen. Yeah, and then I get adrenaline rush, like, oh yeah, and then I go back to bed, and I didn't dream back to it, but I rarely dream, because if I'm smoking a lot of pot, and this week I haven't been. I've been using the CBD, and yeah, that's a surreal moment. But yeah, just shout out to the last Shanali on 209 Balmic. That was a great episode. Justine Hazel, Mike Kaplan. I've just been having a blast with having guests on. But I also like doing the solo ones. I know I'm not the best interviewer, and sometimes I talk over cats, or sometimes, because I'm maybe a little herbed out, I might wander here and there. But I'm learning, and I do think that's what I always thought about podcasts, that I like the punk rock aspect of it all. I like it clean and super professional too, but in terms of growing something dope and kind of weird and out there, it's nice to. It's a good little art form to run and gun a little bit, if that makes any sense. God, I'm so bummed I'm at the end of this coffee. These are the tunes I've been listening to. I will say my favorite. Not my favorite, but it is real hip hop, and it's weirdo hip hop, and it's dope. JPEG Mafia, who I didn't really know. A lot of these new rappers, I'm not all up to date, and media's like so big, it's hard to absorb everything, and especially with hip hop exploding so much in the mainstream. But JPEG Mafia, I didn't know, but I always liked Danny Brown. Always liked his style, like the clips. Like, I have to say I've called some of the big ones early. But no, the JPEG Mafia, Danny Brown scaring the host is like one of the sickest like rap tunes I've heard, hip hop tunes I've heard in a long time. And it's way different, and it's way out there, and it's very, very experimental. But it's working with kind of the elements, like, instead of sampling, why don't you sample, like, weird shit? Like, it's just this weird jazz loop, and then it's, like, hand claps. And I always like hand claps. And then it's, like, this funky-ass, like, drum kit break beat that drops in the middle of it. And then it's just, like, two little, not, like, it's, like, two choruses and a couple raps. And that's all hip hop is. It's just a funky beat. But they approach it just super creative. I was really in the video. It's just got their own voice and their own style. It was shot. And then for some reason I've been listening to a lot of Smashing Pumpkins. For Rocket, I keep on playing that song. That's what I've been into. A lot of Smashing Pumpkins. And a lot of JPEG Mafia, Danny Brown. Well, I just know that one tune. And then the Smashing Pumpkin, I've just been playing Rocket over and over. And the video looks so sick. Smashing Pumpkin, Rocket. Check out the original video. It's just amazing. And then I was just thinking, like, how big back then, like, how big the budgets for videos were. Now, even somebody like Danny Brown, like, the video is great, but they do it kind of all low grade. That even the dudes that got money want to make it look like it's punk rock and kind of broke, because that's what the aesthetic is now. Or just like, I think there's like such a wave of media. The generations below me like have this like ironic like gist to a lot of it, because they see through a lot of the bullshit. And like anything, I think if it's good and pure, like even in your electric art or whatever, that's what I was ranting about Allstate. Like, everybody's talking about this like AI GChat thing, but a GChat's not 3D. I'm 3D. I can spin around. I can walk and talk. I'm not worried about these new Google guys. I don't care what they're writing. I mean, I know all the arguments out there, but in terms of like being, I guess that's what I'm trying to kick to, is like in terms of like just being, like in my meditations I've been working on like just being centered and working from the center. Because when you start to swing out to the fringes, when your mind kind of goes all over the place. But it's nice to swing when you're on cannabis a little bit. But mostly you want to stay centered. So I've been doing that. And doing this podcast weekly is kind of a meditation. It's, keeps me centered. Keeps me something that I like doing. I like making the beats. I like growing it, and then I also know I'm documenting something that has never been seen before, but it's been going on at a slow rate. But I have to say that I've been there along the whole time. A lot of people are like, Rob, you're still smoking? I'm like, yeah, man. I didn't start smoking till way past 20. No, I was over 21. Like, I made it through high school without smoking. And I would say, yeah, you gotta wait till the brain develops all the way. And I think all these mushrooms, I mean, that's kind of what I want to do with this podcast, is kind of like talk it out, be simple about it. You know, I just like things straight up and simple. But I know life isn't that way. That's the thing, man. Like, I did like 20 minutes of meditation, and then I went right into like a car and got into like the longest ass fucking traffic jam. Like, there was just so much construction out there, and I was just like jammed up. And I think my old self would have lost it. Like, I would have just wigged out or turned or, you know, yelled. But I just was like, fuck it, this is it. And I just kind of like, sometimes you just gotta, especially in New York, you just learn to fucking grin and bear it. That's why it's just not like New Yorkers aren't mean. It's just like, you know, it's just a lot of motherfuckers, man. I shouldn't say motherfucker. I like that word. Excuse me. I hate burping on the mic. Stop that, Rob. But it's natural. It's gas. I'm smoking herb. I'm talking a mile a minute. I don't know if it's a mile a minute. I got some coffee. I'm gonna burp a little bit. I gotta be au naturel. I gotta be me. It's all about going back. Yeah, I want this podcast. You know, I think I'm just going more towards the natural route. I want to document like home, like kind of outdoor grown cannabis. These farms I'm really interested in, and just like getting back out to nature. But I love the city because I get to walk around, and I love doing stand-up comedy and just pushing it that way. So I don't know. I got my foot in all worlds and no worlds and this world and one world. One love. Jah Rastafari. Oh shit. I listened to some great. I will say that the Bob Marley station on Sirius is great. I heard a cut that I've never. You think you heard all of Bob Marley's mixes or remix, and they got something, and then Stephen Marley's got something, then his kids got something. I mean, that is just amazing. Jamaica's a special place, especially for the cannabis culture. It's a very special place. But cannabis has been everywhere. I mean, you could say that about everything, but New York City is very interesting, man. I have to say, how it's playing out is very interesting. And I think I'm not saying New Yorkers are smarter. It's just like there's so many people, it's so much drama. All that shit is like, it makes people attack problems in a different way. And sometimes it's like a really smart, efficient, high-end. And that's where I kind of see it going. With all the social justice, I guess Housing Works, finds housing for AIDS patients. Like, it's like this really empathetic, cool. Like, I always knew about it. Like, they had Housing Works would do like, there was like thrift stores and stuff. So I guess it's a non-profit that will help out AIDS patients and homelessness. And but they've become like, that's so smart how they did that. And I have to say, like, how it's run, it just seems like people of New York running it. And then the companies that they got is great. And the cannabis is great. And how it's advertised. Like, it went into, like, I don't like all that Ren and Stimpy, like, bubble gum, rip. It just, they were saying, like, it shouldn't be advertised with kids, like, I said Ren and Stimpy, but what's that other new one that everybody's listening to? Not listening to, but watching. Rick and Morty. So they had like, Rick and Morty packaged cannabis from an illegal store lined up to like a legal cannabis store, like advertising, and it's just like muted colors, simple, everything, all the readout is there, how much is in it, what's in it. And then it has standards, because now you're hearing about fentanyl being those are some rumors, and I just wouldn't be surprised if it gets shaken through. Like I said, there's so much money on the table. I think that's the move, with finding good, clean, organic cannabis in New York. And getting back to nature. I got this article on birds. I'll read you some of the name. The barn owl, the northern cardinal. He's all red. Barn owl, just owls are trippy. The ruby-throated hummingbird. And then there's a picture of a Brooklyn pigeon. Pigeons are the craziest, man. Why you always see pigeons in cities? Maybe there are other places. Birds, man, there's so many different kinds of birds, right? So many, man. It's so infinite and so trippy and so many different kinds. Nature is just like so fucking dope. There's just so many of us. There's so many. I guess what I was thinking is like every species, there's all different kinds, But, and you even go to fruit and even go back to organic cannabis, So everybody, I don't want to be holier than thou on any of this stuff. It's just, that's my vibe. And me going forward, that's what I want to go with, is like more organic, more outdoor grown, more pacing out, more just like, and more like, normal kind of pacing to work with, even being productive in my mental health and everything, going forward. But going forward, I got these shows coming up. I've been working out a little bit. Been doing my 5 Tibetan rites. And I've been meditating, and not trying to brag, but my 20-minute meditation has been going really easy. And I remember when that was a struggle. And now it's been, I'm getting there. They say 40-minute is where you get like the alpha waves going, or some theta waves. 40 minutes when you can rejuvenate your brain. I'll just say that stat again, why meditation I think is important. That you can make a 50-year-old brain think like move as quickly as a 22-year-old brain. But then if you're 50, you have all that experience. So that's where I'm trying to work it. Especially with comedy and writing and everything, you have to have like a quick, I gotta have it clean and mean. And that's where meditation's been helping me. And I think cannabis is more like to relax me and entertain me. And they both kind of like bring you in the moment. You can almost look at everything like not everything, but like playing music as a meditation or a practice. That's why sports are dope. I'm not a huge sports guy, but you got to practice. It's all about practicing. Even when you become but you don't want to overdo it. That's the thing I always, like bringing it back to the center, you don't want to overdo it. You want to practice, but you don't want to make it so it's not fun anymore. Does that make sense? So yeah. This is great cannabis. This is great coffee. This has been a great podcast. I love doing this. I wanted to talk about the legal market. I wanted to talk about this music. I wanted to talk about these shows I went to. We got a little deep. Finish it. I'm at the bottom of this coffee. And I've been trying not to do 2 pots of coffee. A lot of times, like, I'll do this podcast and then I'll drink even more coffee because I got to edit the podcast. But that's why you got to like and subscribe so I can hire some cats to help me with some of this editing and move this a little bit faster and smoother. I know the numbers go up if I drop it on Thursday for the hardcore fans. And it's but with life and editing and everything, you guys gotta be flexible with me. Sometimes Friday, sometimes Thursday. But it is, I am going to get some more guests coming up. I want to do more outside, but it's like rainy and shit right now. So I wasn't going to. I talked to one like dispensary owner who wanted a legal dispensary owner, legal brand, wanted to be on the podcast. So we're working that out. So I'm going to interview a lot of the New York cannabis people. Shout out to my buddy from Backwoods. Is that what it's called? Back Home Cannabis Company. Yeah, I'm going to talk to a rep from them. And that's some of the best weed. Lobo and Back Home, they're all really good. And the pricing isn't that bad. I think they've tried to fight to keep the price. I think they have to compete against the black market. Or the underground market. It's a wild time right now. Especially with politics. I could go into all of that. But I don't want to. I don't want to make this thing too political, but I do believe in peace and love at the end of the day. And I do believe in, I don't want to preach these issues, and I never wanted to be a podcast about that, but I do think, AK-47s, automatic weapons is fucking whack. Even the idea of killing people, I talk about the will to kill, but I know life is fucked up, and everybody, you gotta protect your neck and all that shit. And some people grow up with guns. Some people, it's hard to. But for me personally, I just think everything is energy. So if you have that energy around you, it's more likely you're gonna succumb to that energy. I don't know if that makes any sense. But you do got to protect your shit, and then there's weirdos and freaks. But yeah, less guns, more laughs, more music, more cannabis, more coffee, peace and love. Yeah, I'm a weird hippy-dippy dude at my heart. I don't know if it's weird. I mean, that's the thing I was going to say is everybody's weird. Everybody's weird. There's no normal people. Every individual you see is somewhat unique and odd and wild in their own way. Everybody. That's what I see. And then I just let it go, and I just say, man, I don't want to even think about people too much. I want to concentrate on my own, health, meditation, but also be kind and also be in service and help people. Yeah, I struggle with that, whether to be too nice. You don't want to be too nice, I think you just want to stay in the center, and if somebody knocks you off or pulls you off, then you just got to be you just got to roll with, you got to get out of there. You got to get away from that energy. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, come out to my Philly show. If you're in New York, always check my Instagram, Rob88Cantrell, for shows. In the future, there's going to be more podcasts, more music, more stand-up. I definitely am in the works of getting a whole hour special together. I've never recorded a full stand-up special. The closest, I've put out 2 stand-up audio albums on weird, they were good shows, but it's not I've had bigger and, better crowds, and if I've taped some of those theater shows that I've done, So I definitely, I'm going forward. I definitely want to get a full comedy special out there, which I haven't done yet. I need to do something for 420. Nothing's really booked just yet. So if you have a gig if you have an idea, hit me up at contact@RobCantrell. Any sponsors want to jump on board? The brand is growing. The numbers have been steadily going up, and I'm not going to stop. Word is on the street that this podcast is pretty hot. Check your boy, check your girl. Oh yeah, it's going to be a cannabis world. We're going to fly around. We're going to get down. I'm going to get some better cameras and some better sound. I'm going to make some beats. I'm going to make it unique. I'm going to drink some coffee and then get off my feet. I had a little flow there for a minute. All right, that's it for today. For today and this week. And but I love you. Peace and love to the universe around. Grow plants. grow love. Just grow, grow, grow. I'm out.